Thanks everyone for joining us today, folks here in person, and I hope the other folks that are online watching. Here today for celebration of life of my dad, F Labuda. I think almost everyone knows me, and one of his three sons, also Ed. So we're just going to have folks come up and share some remembrances of Dad, stories and things they loved about him. We have folks in the room, and we also do have some memories that were sent in by folks that can't be here that will be read. So we're going to start with my brother Rick.
Thanks, Ed. I am Rick. I'm the youngest of the three Labuda boys. And before I get started, I just want to thank Ed and Mona for putting all this together. I'm sure it was a lot of work, and they did a fantastic job. Thank you. I know we thanked everyone for coming, but I do want to say it is really nice to see cousins and nephews and nieces and brothers that I haven't been seeing in a long time. It's kind of interesting. Last night, some of us were together, and we were having a little discussion about whether it's better to write out your remarks word for word and read them, or speak somewhat off the cuff. And I am in the minority. I'm going to go a little bit off the cuff. I don't know what you're going to do, Dave.
I have no notes.
There you go. Perfect. So hopefully we will carry the day.
We'll
It's
see.
up to you, because we are in the minority.
What's your time?
What I wanted to focus on, not just memories, but a little bit of what I learned from my dad. And one of the first memories I have is actually learning how to shoot pool. Our dad grew up in a small town, western Pennsylvania, just outside of Pittsburgh, called Jeanette, PA. It's a very typical western PA industrial town. A lot of hills, a lot of small houses, and apparently pool halls. Because he spent an inordinate amount of time in his youth in these pool halls, and he became an excellent pool player. So as we were growing up, we had a beautiful old table, which now I believe Dave has somewhere in California. Probably. You gonna ship it to New Zealand?
We'll see.
But so we all learned how to shoot pool growing up. But my dad had an interesting teaching method, at least for me. I don't know what it was like for you two. But what I remember is basically sitting quietly in a corner, watching him shoot and run balls for about 20 minutes. And then I would get one shot, miss, and then he would go again for about 15 or 20 minutes. But somehow, over time, the magic was passed on, reduced a little bit, but I became a decent enough pool player that it served me well in college, and I was able to scrape together some spending money that way in the pool halls. So that is definitely one thing I learned from him. Another thing was a love of outdoors, and specifically hiking. This is something we did a lot of as a family. My dad climbed Mount Fuji with my mom in Japan. He climbed the Alps. And then as a family, we climbed the Rockies in Colorado. We would go to New Hampshire, the White Mountains, many, many times. I can't even remember how many times we've been there. And we have some great memories. Dave, my dad, and myself did Half Dome in Yosemite on a spectacular weather day. It was just stunning. Dave took some incredible pictures, which are now hanging in my office at home, and they look fantastic. But so there's the love of the outdoors, but his love of hiking also taught me a lesson in karma. And my dad became somewhat infamous when we would go to New Hampshire for what we would call warm-up hikes, somewhat facetiously warm-up hikes. So we would get there, and he would pick out a supposed warm-up hike that was supposed to be somewhat easy to get everyone accustomed to the rocky trails that exist in New Hampshire, but they never quite seemed that easy, especially to my poor mom. And that led to some tension. But then karma came back around. That same Yosemite trip that we did Half Dome, we got there a day early before Dave did. course, he wanted to hike right away. So there's a trail in Yosemite, the Yosemite Falls Trail, and my dad, being the type A personality that he was, started charging up this trail, and it was steep as heck. And after a little while, he started struggling a little bit, but he kept charging up. And then he started struggling more, and then he started sweating profusely and abnormally and becoming short of breath and having some heart palpitations, and we had to stop for quite a long time. Do you remember that, Mom?
Yes.
You remember saying it? It was, that's right, that's right. So eventually we convinced him to maybe cut that one a little short and go back down. So that was my karmic lesson involved with hiking. My dad was also an intellectual, as some people were commenting out during the hors d'oeuvres hour. He loved to read. This man, his intellect manifested in several ways. He had advanced degrees, of course, a PhD in electrophysics, a master's in electrical engineering, patents, a great scientific career. But he also instilled in, probably all three of us, a love of reading. He would read newspapers, the Times, the Wall Street Journal, and books. Books were absolutely everywhere in our house growing up. We'd go to the bookstore on weekends, we'd buy used books, we'd go to the library. It also manifested in some odd ways. For example, on driving back to Pittsburgh to see his mother, he quiz us in math problems and doing mental, not just simple mental arithmetic, it would be factoring quadratic equations in elementary school, so I'm not sure how useful that is, but that was the Labuda car ride. And, but also an affinity for crossword puzzles. Sometimes we would do the Sunday crossword as a family, and that is a tradition that I am happy to say that my wife and I are carrying on. We did one this morning before coming over here, and I think our kids tend to enjoy crosswords as well. I know Eddie is continuing. I don't know if you still do crosswords. But I'll do a couple more, and I know I have a lot of speakers. But also growing up, we had a dog, Molly, that my dad absolutely adored. Molly was a purebred Siberian Husky. Gorgeous, gorgeous dog. Beautiful blue eyes. And there are a lot of Molly stories. Molly would eat things. She ate a woman's headband once, a stranger's headband. She ate a whole chicken, packaging it all off of a counter. Go ahead, Mom. What do you want to say? Oh, frozen chicken. Frozen chicken. And the thing about Huskies is they are a little more of an independent type breed. They can be stubborn, they can be difficult to train, and Ed reminded me of something. Do you care if I say what you were saying last night?
I don't remember. Go ahead.
About the dining room. So on special occasions, we would eat in the dining room. Mom would get out the nice china and everything, and Molly, our dog, was not allowed in there, so she would be on the threshold with her paws sticking over. And as the dinner progressed, she would inch slowly forward, and then my dad would, "Hey, get out!" And then she'd go scurrying back, and then she'd start inching forward more and more. But I also don't think Molly necessarily knew her place in the family. I think she recognized my dad as the leader, but after that, I think we were all below her. But the love of dogs has continued. My wife Heather and I are on our third dog now. So we are definitely carrying that on. And then the last thing I'll say is he liked watching sports on TV, like a lot of men do. And he followed the Pittsburgh teams, having grown up outside of Pittsburgh, and he liked the New York Rangers. And one thing I learned as a child is watching sports with him was I learned a heck of a lot of swear words. And I too learned how to yell at your sports team on the television, such that now when I put on a Steelers game, my dog immediately leaves the room. It has nothing to do with us. So those are some of the things that I learned from our dad, and I do miss you, Dad, and I love you, and thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Strong opening. Next up, Jasmine Labuda.
All right, thank you. I'm Jasmine. I'm a junior and Mona's daughter. Tark's sister and granddaughter of Ed Sr. and Gail. So I'll just start by saying I've had the pleasure of knowing my grandfather for over 32 years, which I am really blessed because not everybody has that time with their grandparents. So upon learning of his passing, I was initially quite sad and distressed, but eventually those emotions were overcome by deep feelings of gratitude for the amount of time I had with him. And I was also thankful that he passed peacefully and with minimal suffering. It's been hard in a way to process his death because he was such a prominent and memorable figure in my life. His presence was so strongly felt that in a way I feel he's very much still here and still so vivid in my mind. Particularly vivid are his endearing smile and warm hugs. Many of you know him, as I do, as a very smart, successful, and accomplished engineer and philanthropist. However, as the patriarch of our family, I also knew him as a caring, kind, and emotional person with a very deep love for his family. And it is this side of my grandpa that I'd like to tell you more about today. My core memories of my grandpa are largely from family gatherings around the dinner table. Usually these dinners were for a holiday celebration or other occasion, and inevitably Grandpa would always tell us stories as the night progressed, some very long. Sometimes they consisted of life advice, but many of them were wonderful stories about our family, especially the one about Grandma and her silk pajamas, which none of us will ever forget. I recall him showing such real vulnerability as he shared these stories, being moved by the bravery of his uncle who fought in World War II, the love and devotion and attractiveness of his wife, Gail, or by his own impact on his family's trajectory, such as pushing beyond the bounds of his humble upbringing and continuing to preach the gospel of education to each generation. His stories and support greatly impacted me both personally and professionally. His love for science and reason fostered an interest in science in me, and his personal history made me believe I could be as successful as I desired. Further, his vulnerability and expression of love, especially as the elder patriarch of our family, was very impactful on me. By showing his vulnerability to us, he and my grandma fostered such an accepting space for us to truly be ourselves together as a family. He brought an aura of warmth and unconditional love to the spaces he inhabited that I cherish and aim to emulate. I truly always felt like I could tell him anything and would receive grace and understanding. I hope to facilitate that same kind of openness in my own family one day and continue to foster a space of understanding and acceptance and storytelling. By sharing these impressions with you all, I aim to solidify his compassion and openness and love for his family as part of his legacy. I think we can all honor my grandpa's legacy together by continuing to show compassion to others, love one another deeply, and telling our family stories. Even
F Labuda both grew up in small towns in PA. Dad Smith worked in the coal mines to help put himself through Ohio State. Ed went to Case Institute on a scholarship. Both played sports. Both earned engineering degrees, and both worked in research. Ed at Bell Labs, E.C. Smith at Republic Steel. Both worked in research at Bell Labs. I just read that, sorry. Ed had many career successes and awe-inspiring accolades, but there was another side to Ed, the fun family side. The ones I fondly remember are all the Thanksgivings together, the day after Christmas, good times at our shore house, their 3 sons and our 3 sons. One year, my boys and I spent Easter weekend with them in PA. Gail had gathered paper plates and crafts to make Easter bonnets. There was Ed, silly hat on his head, like all the rest of us. Ed was a good brother. The last time I saw him was in April 2024. Ed was using a walker. It was a little difficult for him to get up out of a chair, but as I said goodnight to everyone, he took my arm and pulled me down to him. He called me Joni.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Joan, for sharing that with us. I believe if you had a chance to see the slides on the monitor, I think the Easter bonnet picture was showing there. So next up, we're gonna have Amanda Labuda.
Good morning, everybody. I am Rick Labuda's oldest daughter, granddaughter of Grandpa. Unlike my dad, I do have every single word written out so I can stay on course. When I think of Grandpa, the first words that come to mind are loving and encouraging. He ensured that we each got a warm, tight hug when we came to visit as soon as we entered the door. He made it a priority to come watch and support Jordan and I in many of our yearly dance recitals, and was always excited to hear about our next step in our dance and educational journey. I think personally Grandpa was ecstatic when I told him I was going to NYU, both for dance and a scientific degree, always loving to tell me about his time at Brooklyn Poly, which was eventually bought and inherited into the NYU family, and I cherish that connection with him that will continue to live on. Grandpa taught me that intellectual curiosity is a gift, and he showed us that learning wasn't just something you did in school, it was a lifelong adventure. As my cousins and I grew up, we lived throughout the United States, and distance was often a barrier to spending time together with our larger family. Grandpa and Grandma always made sure that no matter how busy life got, there was always time carved out for family, whether it was holiday gatherings or the vacations they so thoughtfully planned. As young children, Grandma and Grandpa provided us the opportunity to bond with our cousins, aunts, and uncles on adventures throughout the United States, some such as Nemacolin, Kingsmill, and Hershey Park, which are now some of my core memories. My personal favorite is our family trip to Jackson Hole, as I was at a significant milestone in my life, graduating high school that summer. My memories of hiking, rock climbing, and sightseeing with my family are cherished times that I think of in my early adulthood and continue to hold close to my heart. My parents have a family photo from Jackson Hole in their living room. I know Mona and Ed have that photo as well. And when we were younger, taking those photos on these trips oftentimes felt like an annoying and tedious process. However, now I'm very grateful to Grandma and Grandpa for ensuring our whole family was brought together in that snapshot for an internal memory. On the Jackson Hole trip, my cousins and I designed our Labuda family crest. An owl with laser eyes, symbol represented a perfect mix of Grandma's love for the wise animal and Grandpa's groundbreaking work in the field of laser optics. It's a funny image, but it's also fitting, as this crest represents how the two of them together built such a unique and inspiring family legacy. That legacy lives on in each of us. Grandpa left his mark not only through his career and accomplishments, but through the values he instilled in us: curiosity, dedication, and love. When my family would talk about bringing a partner over and meeting our family for the first time, we always discussed how they have to know how to speak physics at the dinner table. I'm so grateful that my fiance Brendan had the chance to meet Grandpa. We actually met in physics class in high school, so I felt he would do just fine. They bonded quickly over golf stories, and it meant so much to see two people I love connect so easily. And of course, I can't finish talking about Grandpa without mentioning Grandma. To me, the two of them have been true role models in what a lifelong partnership looks like. Grandpa, as Jasmine mentioned, often loved to reminisce about stories with Grandma as they were younger, specifically the one where she was dressed in silky pajamas for a college theme party, a story that always made us laugh and smile. We used to place bets on when in the night the story would be brought up, and it was a heartfelt reminder of how their love story began and the continued unwavering devotion through decades of serving each other and their family. His presence will always be with us in the lessons he taught, the love he gave, and the memories he helped create. His legacy isn't something we'll just remember, it's something we'll continue to live every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Brendan, good job on getting the nod from Grandpa. Mom, I think you might be answering some questions about some Okay, Tarek Labuda, next up.
Okay, I guess I won't be mentioning the pajamas in my speech. Hi everyone, my name is F Labuda. I'm the son of Ed and Mona, and I'm Jasmine's brother. Thank you for everyone who came today, as I know many of you flew or drove many hours to be here. It's nice to see everyone again and meet others for the first time. I want to share some memories of my grandfather from when I was younger. I was lucky to have grown up only an hour away from my grandparents, so I had the opportunity to visit them often. When I was very, very young, maybe 4 years old, Grandpa Ed's mother, who we called Bubba, was staying at their house. I don't remember much of her, but what I do remember was that she loved to play checkers. And against my wishes, she would make me play with her, absolutely crushing me each time as a 4-year-old. And as they say, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And so, as you all know now, my grandfather was a shark in the pool halls of Western Pennsylvania. So naturally, he had me practice what felt like hours of shooting pool in the basement. And just as his mom, Bubba, used to obliterate me in checkers, he would easily defeat me over and over again in pool. But bringing me along on his activities had its risks. Grandpa used to express a wide range of vocabulary when he was on the golf course with me. As a naturally curious kid, I would ask him what he said and what he meant. While he tried to convince me that he had just said cheese and crackers, I remembered what he actually said. And when we got home, I remember Grandma was in shock at all the new words I learned from Grandpa. The last memory I want to share is one that luckily scarred all the grandchildren, not just me. Grandpa used to love giving us math problems to solve, such as, what is greater, e to the pi or pi to the e? And you can all play along now because it's a quote in the second page of the program if you want to solve it yourself. He would present this and other math problems to the grandchildren, and unfortunately their significant others would sometimes be collateral damage. So, Brandon, you did well. His love for science and building a better world inspired future Labudas to go into science. I was not one of them, though. And today I play pool with my friends and golf sometimes with my parents. And when I'm older, I'll surely crush my grandchildren in different sports and games. Our hobbies and traditions will continue to flow through this family, like a river depositing sediment downstream. The curiosity, wisdom, and love in this family that he helps cultivate will continue to grow with every new generation. While I still wish he was here today, looking over the family he built, like he did at some of our last gatherings, I know his spirit will live on inside me and the people in this room. Thank you.
Thank you, Tark. Okay, next up we have another submitted memories from Martha Kathrida. Heather, you can help us out? Thank you.
Martha is Ed's sister-in-law. I feel fortunate to have known Ed. He was a truly kind and thoughtful man, intelligent and humorous. I remember touring the Jack Nicklaus Museum when he and Gail were visiting. Ed had never heard of this museum, let alone visited it, but he didn't let that stop him. He gave us a guided tour that was knowledgeable, comprehensive, and thorough. And he included side excursions into the science of golf, such as an explanation of the coefficient of bendiness of early golf clubs, or something like that. You get the idea. I still don't play golf, but you can bet I appreciate the game more than I ever did before. Rest in peace, Ed. May all your ways be fair and all your birds equals.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Martha, for sharing that with us. Next up, Diane Kessler, you're going to say a few words?
So I guess technically I am a cousin-in-law. I'm not quite sure if there's a proper word for that. Ed and Gail's house was the embarkation point for my 20-year-old European adventure. I arrived at their New Jersey rental with all the equipment I would need for the summer, and my red backpack promptly unrolled at the doorstep. An unintentional red carpet beginning to this naive Ohio girl's adventure. The night before Ed and Gail saw me off at JFK, they took me to Manhattan to see the musical The Fantastics. I felt so grown up, and Ed added to the experience by introducing me to a non-alcoholic pink lady. I'll never forget it. Now, fast forward to the early 1980s, when my son Peter and I would drive from our home in Massachusetts to my parents' place in Ohio. It was a long trip, and often we stopped overnight in the Allentown area to be with Ed and Gail. At least on one occasion, Ed gave all 4 boys quarters, packed the kids in the car, and took them to a video arcade. Now, for 8-year-old Peter, this was close to heaven. More than 2 decades later, Ed officiated at my son Peter and now daughter-in-law Suva's wedding. This was outside Ed's comfort zone, but God bless him, he handled the role with aplomb. In recent years, knowing that the Wall Street Journal was not my normal reading fare, Ed would forward me an article that he thought I should read. Eddie, you would get copies as well. And when we were together around the dining room table in the Villages, we often had lively conversations about matters both political and diplomatic. Also, around the dinner table, I delighted in hearing Ed talk about his experiences growing up in Jeanette. This gifted scientist, engineer, manager, as you heard, had been a pool shark in his youth. It was hard for me to imagine, but there it was. I will always be grateful for the way that Ed and Gail welcomed me into their lives. I treasure the memories. May his whole soul rest in peace.
Thank you, Diane. Is it on? Yeah. Okay. Okay, we do have a submission from Susan Labuda Schwab. Can we do this one again, Heather? All right. Heather's the volunteer reader.
I'll start by reflecting on how much Ed, Gail, and the family have meant to me over the years. In my early days visiting Aunt Mary Ann and Uncle Ed and Jeanette, I saw very little of Ed, too much of an age gap. I heard from my dad that as soon as my parents arrived for a visit in the earlier years, my dad, Uncle Ed, and Eddie took off for places unknown. My dad used to say that they perched Eddie on a stool beside the pool table, which sounds like it was a regular practice for their boy time together. In 1964, my parents and I visited Ed and Gail in New Jersey and attended the World's Fair. Ed and Gail introduced me to egg rolls. I couldn't get enough. I love them to this day, and I can't eat them without thinking of you. Ed always graciously invited me to play tennis with him, and that began my love for the sport. For my first outing with him, I donned some put-together outfit of boys' clothing because the club required players to wear white. I must have been some sight. It was during a visit to our cottage at Lake Milton that I got one of Ed's life lessons. I was having some difficulty at work, and he encouraged me to put myself and my family first, saying that he told his employees that if they're no good to their family, then they're no good to him. That was followed by Gail's eye rolling behind his back. At our daughter Elise's wedding, I remember how proud Ed seemed when he talked about Elise being the first physician in the family, and how amazed he was that Elise and Nick would be living in Yukon, Oklahoma. To this day, I can still see Ed's wonderful, warm, and sometimes sly smile. He was an amazing man, as all you know. I will always remember his humbleness, dedication to task, commitment, sense of honor, sense of humor, and dedication to his family. More important life lessons for me. There was always a twinkle in his eye when he spoke of those who he loved so dearly. When I remember Ed, I'll think of the indelible mark that he has left in my life and heart and the rest of the world through his life's work and amazing family. May you always remember Ed with a smile, as will I.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Susan, for sharing that. I probably should have annotated the reason Dad was amazed or whatever about Elise and husband living in Yukon, Oklahoma, is because Yukon, Pennsylvania, was the small town that was the first Labuda homestead in the U.S. From the first immigrants back very early 20th century, I think. So it's just a coincidence of names of towns. Okay, next up, Dick Dixon.
Like a hard axe to follow. I had to write down what I was going to say.
Good. Oh, would you like to sit while you speak?
Or whatever.
Okay.
They can't get close to falling down. Well, I think by now you know that Ed and I worked for Bell Laboratories, and it was a many-year endeavor that was always pleasant, both from the viewpoint of jokes and so on, which you've been hearing, but also from the viewpoint of changing the world of communications. One example would be that our Bell Labs groups, which were a little different, his was mostly in Pennsylvania, mine was mostly in New Jersey, but we knew each other well, and the common works that were relevant for us to hear. So our Bell Labs group developed applied fiber optic solutions for many communication problems. Most of you may not understand that, but one of the first of these was a fiber optic solution for transatlantic communication between the United States, England, and France. So imagine a thin piece of glass about the diameter of a human hair, which will transmit light. Start in the shore of New Jersey and end up in England. Or France, or whatever. I remember well the first trips we made to London and Paris at the beginning of these efforts. This was try to tune in the opposite people, the people on the other side of the Atlantic in this case. The first that I remember was in response to an invitation to travel to London and discuss with the British the possible uses of this technology. And I'm always amused by things like this. They thought I was a big shot. So when I was asked to stay at the Savoy Hotel, which in my mind was the most famous hotel in England. And they thought that was normal for some person with my expertise, I guess. In any case, I was told later that my room had been the favorite room of Winston Churchill. So sometimes you get these things crossways, and sometimes they're really quite interesting. And Ed went to France during that period. I got to English. Oh, I don't know who made that decision, but I would agree with it. I like it better in England. I don't speak French too well. what did we do? We tried to understand fiber optics. We tried to understand how they would work in the real world. And we were pretty successful in that. I read an article in a well-known engineering journal, which I saw, says that there are currently hundreds of thousands of miles of optical fiber, both on land and under the sea, in use for communications around the world. Ed deserves our thanks for his great efforts in making these engineering advances possible. Let's see. I had complementary experiences, which I won't go into, but which were all fun, as well as pushy, important. So on one occasion, in a follow-up years, I was returning from Boulder, Colorado, and I liked this. I was upstairs on a 747. It was practically empty plane. I'm not suffering Newark. And the pilot turned on Johnny Denver. So my memories of that include Johnny Denver singing Rocky Mountain High. I'm seeing stars from the sky and so on. So you had, both Ed and I had some great fun along the way. A lot of hard work, long hours. I had 100 people reporting to me, he had roughly the same. So you get all that straight. It's a good day's work. I don't know, what more can I say? Ed, may rest in peace. You were an outstanding contributor to our improving the communications of the world.
Thank you. You're good. Thank you, Dave, for sharing those memories. We can thank Dick and Ed for $40 a month unlimited communication. I can remember when it was several dollars a minute. Very good, very good. Okay, next we have another submission. I'll give Heather a break. I'll take care of this one. Marty and Bob Stitch from Ohio. Marty is Gail's cousin, and she sent in these memories. Our special memories of Ed come from the time that we got to spend with him during our 2-month winter stays in the villages in Florida between 2016 and 2020. Bob and I enjoyed dining out, seeing plays and movies with Ed and Gail, along with playing bocce ball, shuffleboard, and billiards. There it is again. We also attended the Miami, Ohio Glee Club. We won't forget being their guests at the bingo buffets at the local recreation center. Most of all, there was the time spent with special evenings in their home with dinner, table games, and relaxing conversation. I guess no math problems. Occasionally, Ed would pull out one of his old favorite movies to watch on TV, like Shane or House of Games. Sending our love from Ohio, Marty and Bob Stitch. Okay, next up, Doug and Noah Susan.
We're both doing a tag team.
Okay. Bring it on.
I have a book.
Let me set the timer.
Say who these people are.
They can introduce themselves.
We are Susan and Doug from Florida, Gail and Ed's neighbors. And dear friends. And dear friends, yes, very much so. I don't do this, so I may just pass this to a very friendly face here. No, okay. We were neighbors of Gail and Ed, and they were so loud. Their music, their TV, you never saw such wild parties that they had. No, you know that. Very quiet, lovely neighbors. It was a tremendous comfort to know you were there. And if we needed help, we just had to ask you.
Seems to me the help all came from the other person.
No, it was always a pleasure, though, to be with you. And I do have to say, whenever I talk of Ed, in my mind always, it will be Gail and Ed. So a lot of what I'm saying is about Gail as well. Okay, Ed. Very gracious, fun to be with, well-read. These are all the things you all heard already. Smart, competitive, and extremely generous. Smart. He never bragged about all of his accomplishments, but he would talk of the different patents that he made, but it would come up casually in conversation. Ed and Gail would get to New York Times Magazine, and there is a puzzle in there. And I believe, Gail, you copied it for me so that I could participate in the puzzle weekly when I would see you. And the puzzle was to gather words out of this little circle. And I think it read, if you did okay, you were good. If you found a few more words, you were excellent. And if you found all the words or more, you were a genius. What do you think Ed strove for? What do you think he went for? It was genius and above. What did I go for? I went for good. And I just said, oh, it was tough for me, Ed. But I did it. Competitive. They had a shuffleboard table that we would go over weekly and play 2 or 3 games with them. And once the wheels in his head started turning, it was his turn, he would line up. I'm gonna have to move over a little bit. He would line up, and the engineer in him, smoke would be coming out of his ears, and he's lining up to get a good score, but going after Gail's pucks. Gail and I were partners on opposite ends. It was boys against girls. It was lots of fun. Lots of fun, a very good player. And fun to be with. We would go out to several special dinners in Orlando or Ocala or within the villages. And he was always talking about the show production plays. Are you interested? Would you like to go? The Black Box Studio, very small. Well, we went to a lot of shows with Gail and Ed. They were fun to be with. Again, well-read. He was constantly saying, hey, would you like a book to read? I just finished it. And of course, extremely, extremely generous. We miss him terribly. Your turn. I'm not gonna be able to read what you wrote.
I probably won't be able to either because it's on this tiny little phone.
And we're old.
Yeah. So Susan and I actually didn't compare notes from what each of us wrote until last night. So there's a lot of overlap here. And listening to everybody speak, there's a lot of overlap, but also a lot more that I think we both learned.
Yes.
So I just want to say in our early days when we got together with Ed and Gail, we'd go out to dinner or to a show. I remember Ed, he was always concerned in the first few times we went out, could I wear shorts? And I said, oh, sorry, can I wear shorts? I said, Ed, absolutely. And I knew from that point forward, I would love this guy. Because it is Florida, and I do not like pants.
You almost wore shorts today in honor of Ed.
And I will tell you, and I'm he saw this, I flew up in shorts, and I will be flying home in shorts. So, again, we're talking about Ed's knowledge and experience in and out of work. We're both amazing and fascinating. I could sit there and listen to him forever. I could look at his case with the electronics in it. I don't think there was anything he didn't do or that he couldn't do. I mean, everybody's talking about the hiking, the camping, what he did at work. I'm still amazed. I don't think we know anybody who was like him. But what I admired the most, the very most about him, is that he never boasted or bragged. Hang on, I'm coming. Ed was very quiet and soft-spoken. That was at least, here we go again, until he was competing. So I guess everybody knows this about him. As Susan mentioned, he was quite the calculator when he took his shot. The few times though, when he's doing all of this aligning, the smoke coming out his ears, and yet he talked about pool, and if you've ever worked on a shuffleboard, you know that you can slide the puck side to side to get down there, right? So he's lining this all up, and then he shoots and falls right off the side. You know, Susan and I are just sitting there going, you know, what do you say? Other than you just kind of smile, let it happen.
Good job!
And then he would go, oh, Ed, why did you do that? And I don't think he used quite those words.
He was good though.
But he was very polite in front of us. But
Yes.
I understand maybe he knew some other words that he taught the grandchildren.
Yes, yeah. We know that now.
I last attempted to play golf when I was a teenager, and then I quit for 55 years, whatever. And the job that I was in really didn't lend itself for me having time off on weekends or nights or anything. So when we moved up to the villages, Ed was still playing golf, and I was looking forward to the day I could retire. It was a little disappointing because when I finally retired, Ed stopped playing golf. So it's never.
You
Hang on.
never could play golf.
I could never get out with him.
No.
He did, however, work with me on the sidelines. He shared all his golf magazines. He even shared clubs with me. He gave me clubs. He gave me his 7-wood, which he said saved him all the time. It didn't do anything for me. I'm still a bogey golfer, and he also gave me one of his favorite putters, and I still use both clubs. Okay.
Well, aren't they envious of you when you use?
They are. I've got a putter, and people who play golf probably know this right there. It's got a hole in the center, so you just go over, poke it down, pull up the ball, and everybody just stands there and go, whoa, how cool is that, right? Nobody that I golf with has this club. So they're both very special clubs. And of course I think of Ed all the time. But you know, Ed and I would talk about my golf game, what I was doing. He was always helping, suggesting with the golf magazines. He'd talk about the articles. He'd always ask me about the games. Well, I never liked watching golf on TV. I thought that was pretty boring. But he was always talking about that, and he really encouraged me and helped me, even though he could not play. So really, you know, it comes down to, you know, Ed and Gail were just awesome neighbors, and a great friend. Hang on. I'm frightened, so you just gotta be patient.
I'm sorry, Dave, because you're last. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And, you know, I always called on Ed for advice. I really did. And there will never be anybody who will fill his shoes for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan. So, keeping with the golf theme, I have something to read that was submitted by another Florida neighbor and friend. friend, Dan Zaror. So he sent in, "My name is Dan Zaror. I was a friend and golf companion of Ed's. I met Ed at one of the neighborhood men's breakfasts. These were a way for the men to get to know each other while the neighborhoods were still being built out. I arrived late to the breakfast, but as I looked for a seat, I spotted Ed motioning for me to come to his table. We hit it off from the very beginning. I should say, the main reason to get all the men together was to gather information as to who golfed and did they need more players. Ed invited me into his golf group, and we had a great time together. On one occasion, Ed wanted to play golf in a charity tournament in Ocala, Florida. Ed asked me if I would like to play in the tournament, and once he told me where it would be held, I was all for it. It was held at Ocala National, which has certain holes that are replicas of golf holes at very well-known courses around the country. Ed was so excited about playing this course. He covered the entire cost of admission. We told him we would pay our share, but he told us it was on him. I know you're wondering if this story will ever end. Well, it does. Our team won the tournament, and to see the look on Ed's face when we were announced the winners was worth all the gold in Fort Knox. He could not have been more happy and proud. He contributed to a cause that he was passionate about, and we took home the first place prize trophy. I still have that trophy from March of 2017 sitting on my computer desk. There is not a day that goes by that I don't look at that trophy and think of Ed, and that look on his face, and it makes me smile. Rest in peace, my friend. From Dan Zaror. So thank you, Dan, for sending that in. Okay. Clean up, batter, Dave Labuda. All right.
You put me over the edge already.
Sorry. Yeah.
I have a professional crier. So first I want to point out that Evan, who's in the back there, ended up with Grandpa's golf clubs and is carrying on the tradition. Now, Evan, you know why there's no 7-wood in this. So I've got an obvious thing to say, and then maybe a slightly different thing to say. The obvious thing is Dad was just a tremendous inspiration to my career and my professional life, including the hallucination of work-life balance, of course. But you know, he took us to Bell Labs on Take Your Kid to Bell Labs Day, where we were seeing the early days of integrated circuit research, and then the early days of laser research, and then fiber optics, and all that stuff. And it was just absolutely amazing to see the science that he worked on, and very inspiring. The math problems at the dinner table and on the car rides. And then he insisted on being an angel investor in both of the startups that I've been involved in. He was just absolutely supportive every step of the way. Mom too, of course, but Dad was really pushing it. And I really thank you for that. Thank you, Dad. But I do want to talk a little bit about something that you don't get famous for, which is the incredibly warm, loving household that we got to grow up in. And this is a mom and dad thing. This is not a dad thing. But it is amazing to me that the kind of the most traumatic situation I can think of as a child is that Dad always got angry at me for taking my Oreo cookies and opening them and eating the cream first. Like, that was my childhood drama. I have over the years met, hundreds of other people and had exchanged lots of stories, and the stories of chaos in the house and neglect and violence and just the challenges that other kids deal with trying to grow up in this world. And we just had none of them. I mean, it was just an incredibly loving household. Mom and Dad did an amazing job of just letting us be us and encouraging everything, not imposing their philosophy or their politics or anything on us, just letting us grow up. And I just want to thank both of you for doing that, because I think you really see the diverse result that you get if you let people, flourish. So thank you, Mom, and thank you, Dad. Love you both.
Thank you, Dave. That's going to conclude the online portion of today's activities. So I'll just hold for a second while we wind that down. Okay. So we do have lunch coming up. I think Bob has asked Diane just to say a word before we start in at lunch.
We are gathered here to give thanks in many ways. We are grateful for memories shared, for Ed and Gail who nurtured